So, when you're talking about unconditional love, the first thing I thought is about unconditional help for people who don't have money.
I don't believe in much welfare for society. I believe that, say, you're a stay-at-home mom and your husband joins the army or something and gets killed, maybe you need some help. If you're a person and you get hit by a car and you can't work, you need some help. I mean, hopefully you have a family that can help you, but say you don't have a family, or say your family doesn't have the resources to fully support you if you can't work yourself. You get what I'm saying? Like if something happens, like you're a normal working person, but something happens, it's good to have some sort of safety net there. But we can't just, oh, you can't find a job because you say you can't find a job. Oh, I guess we just give you money. It's like I know so many people in California. Why would they work? They don't want to work. They're just going to sign up on unemployment. They're going to get their housing. What's it? I can't remember what it's called because I haven't got it myself. But they get like housing assistance. They get their e. They renamed them. They used to be called food stamps. Now it's, I don't know. They got a card, so they get to be fancy and have their card at the store. I mean, that is the modern way, but they get their housing assistance, their food money, and then they get their unemployment. It's like, why would you work if you can get all that for free and spend your day doing whatever you want?
Yeah, exactly my point. You can't give things unconditionally, and you cannot give help to everyone. So really, if you want to teach your kids to respect you, you shouldn't give everything for free. Like, if you have some friends, you know that you have been too good towards them, and they started taking you for granted, that is loss of respect. Taking you for granted. Like, you could say, you could use many examples, but I've had this problem. When you start uh, training, let's say, someone, and just because they're doing good and you try to encourage them, they start thinking all of a sudden that they're, too good to listen to you. It's like beyond my belief. So you should be really hesitant with encouraging someone to, like, giving compliments. They should be earned. Everything you do should be earned by the people, because then they wouldn't appreciate it.
I still think with kids, it's a little bit different because they're your family. Like, for example, I was thinking, you have a house, there's certain things that need to get done. Say I ask my kids to take out the trash, um, and they don't want to take out the trash. I'd try to explain it to them like this, like, hey, you want there to just be trash sitting around? You like how it smells? You want us just to put another, like, at my home in California, we got a big trash can in a cupboard. Here, I just put it in a bag. I don't like having to open a cupboard. But say I had kids in this apartment and I've got that bag of trash, I would just take out another bag, put it there, fill it up with trash, and I would let the kids see that, hey, there's just a bunch of trash there. It's not nice to have that there. And I tell them, hey, I mean, the trash isn't a good example because it's not much work to just take it out, but I'm using it as an example. And I explain to the kids, like, hey, I got to do all these things. Your responsibility is to take out the trash. If you don't take out the trash, it stinks. You like it stinking? No, so take it out. And hopefully my kids, and I think they should be smart enough to realize, like, yeah, I should actually take out the trash. Hopefully
It's
I don't need to like give a reward or a punishment for them to do it. I think that's ridiculous.
I understand what you're saying, but I've lived with roommates, with flatmates, and sometimes people, or when I was a kid, sometimes stuff didn't just made me, like, if I wasn't throwing the trash, I didn't feel obligated to throw the trash. I didn't feel like there was something wrong. So, you could say something bad about me, or we could just understand that there are some people, some situations that just don't, people don't see those stuff. So you
Like
have to
I was
make them.
also like that when I was younger, but I think it has to do with families not being enough of a family unit anymore. Like I don't know about every family, but I know that like I have great parents, but I never felt like we were a family unit, like we all had to work together. And never had that feeling at all. So maybe how kind of like with you and the trash, like you said, like I didn't think about it either. It's like, why should I take out the trash? Like
You
when
you
I was
just
young.
didn't you just didn't think it's so special to not take the trash now. Like you thought you could do it tomorrow, and then you thought you could do it tomorrow, but the trash starts piling. Your mother starts talking about it, and
I mean, when I was younger, I didn't understand, and I don't know what, I mean, pretty young especially. I didn't understand that like stuff takes time. People have to do it. Every person only has so much time. Like your parents have to do stuff besides wash your dishes after you eat, besides fold your clothes. So I hope when I have kids, I'm going to instill the understanding that everybody has to work towards life working. Like things don't just I don't know, like I really want to instill the idea that we're a family and we all have to work together to make things work.
okay, well, if I'm going to talk now about how the family would feel more like a family together, I would say it like this. If you homeschool your children, that is the first, or if you school them with some private tutor, or some private guy, and you go sometimes and you teach them sometimes some stuff that that is going to be the first step to be connected with your children. In order to be connected with your wife, she has to understand that propaganda coming from the government is, first of all, propaganda. So if you try to keep the government out of your relations with your kids, with your wife, you will at least achieve the first step to unifying your family.
Yeah, we need stronger families, less reliance on government. That's a tactic governments use to become more powerful. They break up families so that people become dependent on governments.
Yeah. So I want to now address this topic in another way. When I was younger, when I was doing everything much faster, like I was trying just to do wash the dishes super fast. So I was putting, I was starting the sink. It was, the water was too strong. It was bouncing off the plates. It was making everything wet. And I didn't care about this. I'm sorry, maybe disgusting, but I didn't care about this. But now, when I see someone else doing it, when I live with a person that actually does it, now I understand. So my thought is, if your kids or my kids or anyone's kids haven't been through this, I don't know how they are going to understand just by telling something, you know?
I don't think it's even so much about telling, just somehow they need to be raised more in a family unit type environment. Like nowadays, everybody's so separated. In the old days, you had like a farm or like, at least a small amount of land, maybe some animals. Everyone had to work together. Like nowadays, like mom goes out and has one job, dad has another job, one kid goes to this school, another kid maybe goes to that. I mean, your kids might go to the same school. That's likely too. The point is like maybe they're in different classes, most likely. Everyone's very separated. Somehow they need to be more unified. Families need to be stronger and more connected. And I don't know, maybe it's
There's
just they don't do enough together at home. I don't know.
there is also the other thing, that leadership is really the most important thing to be able to have a family unit. How are you going to be a leader in any setting with your employees? Like, you have to be harsh enough for them not to fuck with you, and you have to be good enough with them or cool enough so they can actually share their thoughts and their experiences with you, and you can actually have a bond. So where is the sweet spot between being good enough so people trust you and they like you as a person, and not being good enough so you're not so they don't lose respect for you? This, in my opinion, is very important, because how are you going to know if your son smokes weed if you're constantly like, oh my god, drugs are, like, really bad, and if you do it, I will break your fingers and stuff like this. Like, if
I'm gonna
you're
tell
like
my
this, huh?
to be honest, I'm gonna tell my kids like, hey, if you're gonna do drugs, like tell me about it. I'll make sure that they're safe. And then you can do them with me to start, and I'll make sure you're good, and then you can.
Disclaimer: we are not advertising the use of any banned substances or encouraging it or giving advice for taking it. We are here just for entertainment purposes and
Yeah, what
information.
I'm saying is if I know my kid's gonna do something, and trust me, if my kids are anything like me, there's no way to deter them from doing anything they want to do. So I'm gonna just be realistic and realize my best option is help them do it safely and help them to realize, well, that drug, it might feel real good, but the problem is you do that and everything else in life. I mean, maybe when you're young, you wouldn't understand this, but try to explain how it causes a lot of issues because now you stop caring for everything else in life.
Hey, maybe if your kids are interested about hard drugs, you can just take them in the car and let's go see some people. And you go
Go to
under a
Los
bridge,
Angeles.
you go under a bridge and you show those are the crack addicts.
I saw that kind of stuff when I was younger and didn't actually put any influence in my mind. Like, I don't know, I guess I thought like, I'm not a loser like those people. Doesn't matter what I do. I'm not one. I guess I'm just egotistical or something, but yeah, it never made me think about things like you would hope.
So do you see the guy that peed himself near the guy who shit himself over there? You just, I personally think that this would repulse people from using some drugs.
Never made me think about anything.
Not you, but some people will.
Yeah.
So there is a valid, it's valid for some people to
Well, I
use
think
this.
it's certainly useful. Like I would certainly want to show my kids that, but at the end of the day, if my kid expresses that he's gonna do something, if they're anything like me, I know that they're gonna do it. So I better make sure they do it safely. That's just me. Everyone's different. Maybe some people can convince people like themselves, but me, I'm not the kind of person that people can convince me not to do something.
Well,
That's a call.
if they use logic, maybe they can, but they really have to be deep into wisdom to understand that, you know how to do it. So yeah, I see your point and you see my point, that in order to be a family unit, you gotta be close enough with them so they can share stuff, and you have to be like a bit away so they have your respect. And this is a very, very hard thing to do.
Actually, what you were talking about, like I show my wife all the time, people like in California, what happens when they use drugs. I tell her about people I know who use drugs. I mean, she knows from everything I've told her that like you don't want to use drugs, but she's not me. So yeah, it works for a lot of people, I think.
Yeah, like I have much fear in me. I'm not someone who is going to say I'm not afraid of this or not afraid of that. I'm afraid of many things, and because I realize it, I can use this fear to stop myself from doing stuff that I shouldn't do. So yeah,
I've
that's
always
my
been the
approach.
type that was afraid of things in a sense, but realized that it's possible to do things safely. So I would just go through the efforts of being able to do them safely. And then that eliminated my fear.
If the things that I'm afraid of are gonna contribute to my development as a person, then it doesn't matter if you're afraid of them, you have to do them. But
Kind of random, but that reminds me, like people think being brave is not being afraid of things. Being brave is like you're really afraid of it, but you decide you got to do it anyways.
yeah, many fighters are actually really afraid when they're going to go on the ring, but for some reason, they train, they prepare for it, and they go anyway. Like, who isn't afraid of going to fight a guy in an octagon or a ring? Like, come on, if you say you're not afraid, you're just gonna lie. What's the point?
But I don't know, maybe you think if someone took a bunch of trenbolone and amphetamine and maybe a little alcohol, maybe they wouldn't be afraid.
Well, I don't know. Maybe alcohol can help, but fear is very hard to. I think fear is the strongest emotion of all. I think fear can beat love many times because I've seen women. What happens when a couple gets attacked? I see the woman running. So what does that mean? That she didn't love him, or that fear is beating love?
Well, I mean, I think that in some situations, it's probably best if the woman does run away so that she can't get seriously injured. Like I've told my wife, and I didn't include like a runaway clause, but I've told her like if I'm ever being attacked and you're with me and I'm like having a hard time, there's only one way you can help. You need to get a hard object that has some weight to it and hit the guy on the head. But
Motherfucker,
of course,
I
like
like you.
if I would also want her to run away if it's the right situation. Like a guy
So
who used to cut my hair, by the way, I did this haircut myself, but I need to cut a little bit more. But my old barber, he was a tough guy when he was younger. He could lift heavy weights. He studied martial arts. So one time he's walking around. Some people pick a fight with him for some reason. There's like three of them. His wife was like, I don't remember how much he said she weighed, maybe like 120 pounds. He said she was like really skinny and fragile. And he was doing really good with these guys. But one of them kind of pushed his wife. She fell over, broke her hip. So in that case, probably would have been better if she just bolted out of there. But of
yeah,
course, it's hard to leave your husband.
I'm just saying that fear many times beats love.
Yeah, I
So
agree.
in my opinion, fear is the strongest emotion of all. And that's why if someone says that he's not afraid to fight, I would most probably say that he's a liar.
Or stupid.
Uh, Down syndrome, like, I don't, okay, we'll have
I
to
was
think
actually
of
thinking of
something.
making a video on this yesterday. Let me chew this quickly. I don't know if you've had this experience, but I've met a number of girls who way overestimate their power. It started when I was like 16. My cousin had a girlfriend, and she's telling me how one time she hit a guy and broke his arm. And I didn't believe it. I'm like, no way, you did not break his arm. And I'm like, hit my arm as hard as you can. She would not do it. She would not do it. She's always like, no, I don't want to break your arm, blah, 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 blah. And like, she seemed to actually believe it. But then one time when she is drunk, drunk, I finally managed to get her to hit my arm as hard as she could. And I'm like, so she's like, okay, you know that like if I break it, it's your fault and everything. She hits it as hard as she can, and it's like, and I'm like, is that as hard as you could? It was just, it's, of course it was nothing. Like she's a little, I mean, not a little, she's like 5'7" or something, like a medium-sized girl. And then even my wife used to think like that she could get in a fight with a guy and like do okay. And luckily, I've taught her that like no, you can't. And I have a classmate, a girl, who I was telling her how like I started doing MMA, and she tells me, "Oh yeah, but the problem with MMA is you wear gloves. I want to do MMA, but without gloves and against guys." And like, no, you don't. I don't want to do it without gloves against guys. Like, you're gonna get killed. And she actually thinks that she can go to an MMA place as a girl, like a normal girl. She's not like on a gram of tren a week or something. She's not a genetic elite. Normal girl thinks that she's gonna go and do bare knuckle boxing with full grown men, and that it's gonna be all good and everything.
I remember one time I this is when I was starting to train kickboxing around 15 or 14. There was one girl that she was very good at kickboxing, and she was going to many competitions and winning them. And I was happy for her. But like when the trainer puts her with me, and he says, be careful, she's a girl, and I'm, yeah, absolutely fine, no problem. I'm not a guy who would hit a girl hard. And then she starts hitting me hard, and I'm like, yeah, maybe. And
Time to
she's
give her
like,
a little bit of a hit.
yeah, maybe. And she's like, okay, why are you fighting like a pussy? And I'm like, yeah, good question. Hook. Hook. And there the other guys are like, what are you doing? And then like, what is she doing? Like, she told me I'm fighting like a pussy. So, and then after this, she liked me.
But it's amazing how delusional these people can be.
Yeah, it's crazy because really the movies and
Oh yeah, like they have
Hollywood.
movies where these girls are throwing guys around, like and it's crazy.
Yeah, I think it's dangerous because it can get them really fucked up.
Yeah, like my wife, she went through the phases. Like at first, she thought like she could do okay against a normal guy. And then I convinced her like no. And then she thought like, oh, I can do good against a skinny guy. I'm like, no. Then she thought, well, I can do okay against a short, skinny guy. I'm like, no, you can't do okay against any guy. Like, like maybe if he's like extremely small, extremely lightweight, and extremely pussy, like he got his balls snipped, sure, maybe. But like against just a short, skinny guy, I think that a girl stands no chance, like a normal girl.
There is a viral video now in Instagram where some guy who is a midget, like very very short. He's basically he has some illness, which is I'm not
Yeah,
making fun of him
orbit.
at all, but he's a midget, and some random girl that is like 2 times taller than him is fighting him, and she's having generally a hard time, like she at the end she kicked him with a knee in the head, and he was on the ground, but he wasn't like passed out. He was still moving and trying to get up. So I'm just adding to the topic you're speaking of.
While we're
Even
talking about it,
even a midget would give a woman a hard time. So it's very important for women not to kid themselves that it's sounding very misogynistic, which
it's called
sometimes,
reality.
yeah, realistic,
I mean,
but
of
that
course, you got the genetic elite woman, like the Olympic level kickboxing woman. Yeah, they could do good against an average guy. But that's one in a billion. But while we're on this topic, and not that it's anything to be proud of, it's just funny. One time I had to wrestle a girl, and like you, I'm like, I don't want to like fight against her. So I'm like letting her do whatever she wants to do. She gets behind me and I realized, oh, she's gonna try to grab me and throw me. So by the way, I sucked at wrestling. I did not know any moves, so somehow I just like reached around the back of me and I grabbed her and I just went, and she fell outside of the ring. She tumbled into the audience and she started crying. So I mean, she thought she was gonna throw over this guy, but nope, just end of that. I thought it was funny. My mom was there and she like told me, I didn't think about this, but she told me you should go over there and shake her hand. So afterwards, she's crying. I walk over and good game. And
Absolutely slaughter the person and then yeah, you were good. Yeah,
I mean, what is it? It's a girl. What does she expect? It's ridiculous.
I I like
That's how disconnected these movies and stuff are from reality, as we already said.
when I'm fighting someone that I know that he is genuinely better at everything, I'm not going to try to embarrass him because that would attack his ego, and then the guy starts throwing real hits.
Oh,
So
you know, something
that's
related to this is that weak people are more dangerous than strong people, in my opinion. What do you think?
well, I know many people. Well, I feel it myself. Like I know men who beat their girlfriends, and they are not they're not strong. They're not physically. They're not mentally strong. They're most of the time people who feel more entitled to stuff, more entitled and less prone to be good, be faithful in a relationship. It's a type of a bad boy mentality, but without the ethics of hard work. So you could see that what from what I'm saying is that weaker people are more prone to domestic violence than strong people.
I also think that even if you're sparring with a weak person, they're more dangerous than a strong person. Like you spar against a weak person, spar against a strong person. The strong person, I mean, unless they're a piece of shit person, they know they're strong. They don't need to try to prove it. They don't need to try to get one on you when you're not paying attention. The weak person, yeah, of course, there's good weak people also, but just in general, I notice that the weaker people, those are the ones that are going to try to, like, when you're not looking for a second, do something and like catch you off guard. They're the ones that are gonna, like, you're going easy on, you're just practicing, and then all of a
Even
sudden they go as hard as they possibly can out of nowhere.
even if someone catches you when you're not paying attention, he's not gonna do it hard. He's gonna just make you aware. You're open from this side.
No,
Protect
I mean,
yourself.
like, I've been around, like, there's one person I know in particular. This guy, he gets drunk and he has issues. Like, he gets drunk and his mental issues come out. But I've seen lots of people like him. And for example, like, I wrestled with this guy in my backyard, and like, I'm just practicing with him. But I could tell that he had this like inferiority complex where we would be like showing each other moves, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he starts choking me as hard as he can. It's like, I'm letting you get me in that choke because we're practicing with each other. It's not time to start actually trying to choke me until I pass out. Like, of course, you practice, you want to make sure you get it, but there's a difference between practicing and all of a sudden trying to actually go as hard as you can.
You know,
So actually,
be
later on that night, we were in my pool in my backyard, and I knew that this guy might try to like pull me under the water and do something. So I just held a big vodka bottle in my hand, and I figured, if he tries to pull me under, I'm just gonna whack him in the head with this. I don't care if he dies.
not the type of friends you want to have. So yeah, I mean, I've seen people, typically people who like abusing other people and taking advantage of them. are not the best, are not the most, moral people. So that's why I think that being moral is really important for being your best version.
You need to be morally strong and physically strong.
Yeah. And very, very often, the one thing leads to the other. So, yeah. Like
And it's
there is,
really hard to be morally strong if you're not physically strong, because then you can't actually do what you want to do because you're weak and you have to be in fear.
there is exception. People who are born with great genetics.
Mhm.
People who are born with great genetics can be not morally strong because they don't need to go to the training all the time, but they still have super big benefit. Like let's say someone like John Jones, he's a UFC fighter. Some people say he's the best ever. I say he is the best eye poker in his division. So he uses really dirty tricks. In the beginning, you could see that he had this floating. He was actually doing very, very beautiful stuff. He was fighting. He was into fighting. Like you could see, he had this spark in his eyes. He wanted to be a very great fighter. And then all of a sudden, fame hit him. He started using again more drugs, drinking again more alcohol. He was like having problems with the police because of his stupid addictions, and ultimately fame destroyed him because he didn't have the humbleness to understand that he is not what everyone thinks he is. He is what he shows. This is
That's
how.
another thing. Like recently, again, a video that I was thinking about making, haven't made. Like I have a gigantic list of videos. I may as well show it so that the audience knows I'm not just making this up. Video ideas. Those are all the videos I haven't made. I mean, maybe one or two of them I haven't deleted from the list. But one is you are your actions, not your thoughts. Nowadays, people want to convince everyone that, oh, you shouldn't think that way. Bullshit. Think whatever you want to think. Hate whoever you want to hate. It matters what you do. You can hate somebody, but if you treat them well, that's what matters.
Well,
It's
you
like
can say
John
so.
Jones. He is one way, but he shows one other thing to the public.
Well, yeah, apparently we're not our thoughts, we are our actions. That's true.
Yeah.
So,
Not that
yeah,
he's not the best example, but it made me think of that.
true. Well, yeah, I think what is the moral of the story is that being humble enough to understand to deal with fame is going to be the ultimate factor that decides, are you going to be your best version of yourself, or if you're going to fall and become a horrible human being and just abuse power.
Interesting that that's actually so hard for people. I don't know, because I haven't been in that situation, but I don't see why it would change me at all. Like maybe I'm delusional, I don't realize it, but I think that there are certain people that just have like an integrity and certain people don't.
I think the best way to protect yourself uh, from your ego taking over your life is knowing that this can happen and never thinking that you are somehow better than the others, because that is what ultimately makes people fail. Thinking that you're so much better that you don't need to even think that. That is what is going to prevent you from you disconnecting with what's happening and thinking, wait a minute, am I actually right in this position? You really have to have a safety mechanism for yourself, man. It's hard. I'm trying to do it, and I still end up doing stupid stuff that after I know it was stupid. Like, I remember, just to tell you this short story. Oh, I mean, I'm not gonna brag about it, but I'm a good fighter. You know, I could perform very good if I went to a competition even in the next 3 months. I went one time in my previous boxing kickboxing club, and I was fighting with guys. You know, we were just doing sparrings between us, and we were switching people. So I was doing a lot of crunches, you know, with weights, a lot of physical exercises. I basically wanted to become undestroyable. So I was telling one guy, you can hit me hard if you want, no problem, which is really stupid to say. My ego took over, and he knew, because he was also a good fighter, and I didn't knew him, which was again my ego speaking. And he knew I can hit him in the head. He may have a strong neck, okay, but if I hit him in the liver, and if I catch him when he's not flexed, doesn't matter how strong you are, you're gonna fall down. So he did exactly this, and I not didn't, and I even didn't protect myself there. You know, it was that much that my ego took over. So yeah, he hit me in the liver. I had a problem. You know, he took my air out, and he was like, "Yeah, so what now? I can hit strong, yeah." You know, like, it was completely deserved from my point. You know, it was completely deserved. I'm just telling you, don't think like this, because this is going to lead you to what I did.
Yeah, it's how
Yeah,
I thought when I was like 16, but not now.
okay. I'm just saying.
Yeah, it's important. Also, it's important to realize like you can get injured, you can die.
Yeah,
A lot of teenagers, I think, don't realize that, like, because they don't see death, they don't see injuries. Kind of related to that is like people, especially young people, maybe they're in school or something. They look around them and they think, oh yeah, we're all in this together. We're all gonna be here next year. We're all gonna graduate. We're all gonna. Chances are someone's gonna be dead by the time you graduate. Not everyone's gonna like. That's life. Like people literally die even at young ages.
I have two classmates that died in a car crash, and they were both separate cases. They didn't die in one car.
Yeah,
So
it's sad. Like that's reality.
I didn't particularly like them that much, but you know, like, when someone dies like this, you always think like maybe they didn't need to do, maybe that wasn't necessary. Even if you didn't like them, why would I wish someone to die? You know, like,
Yeah.
so
Actually,
it's sad.
real crazy example is my wife's friend's boyfriend knew a girl who she simply got drunk, sat on the window ledge, fell from like the I don't know 10th 20th floor of an apartment building. It was like on their graduation day or something. She comes home after a party, sits on the window edge for some. I mean, pretty much any time you die is crazy. I just thought that was extra crazy. Like, I don't know why. It's just that way hits
I
me.
understand, like, anything can happen, and that's why people should be always having some safety mechanisms about how much they drink, how much they think about themselves. And that is my conclusion. Always be aware that you could be wrong and you could do something wrong. I see
Yeah,
there is less than 1 minute here, so
I
maybe I
think
should
it's
stop.
good for today. What do you think?